Pilot vanished midair over the ocean. UFO encounter or dark conspiracy. Imagine this. You were flying your small aircraft over the dark, quiet sea when suddenly, out of nowhere, you encounter something that no one can explain. And then you are gone. On October 21st, 1978, an Australian pilot named Frederick Valentich had just that experience. What happened to him in those final moments? Was it a strange encounter with the UFO, or was there something more sinister at play? Today, we delve into the baffling disappearances of Frederick Valentich, a case that has puzzled aviation experts and UFO enthusiasts alike for decades. And the eerie question that still haunted this case: did Valentich really vanish into thin air, or was there something, or even someone, that made his disappearance? Frederick Valentich, a 20-year-old pilot from Melbourne, Australia, was no stranger to the skies. He was training to become a commercial pilot, and by all accounts, he was a capable, focused young man with the promising future ahead of him. But on the fateful night in 1978, his life would take a turn that no one could have predicted. It all began with the routine flight, a solo training exercise in a Cessna 182L aircraft, flying from Moorabbin Airport, just south of Melbourne, to Kings Island in the Bass Strait, an area famous for its challenging flying conditions. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich took off for Moorabbin Airport, reporting to air traffic control that he was heading towards Kings Island. It was a relatively short flight, only about 125 miles, but it would soon become anything but a routine. As Valentich flew over the Bass Strait, something very strange happened. He reported seeing an object that he initially described as an aircraft, but one that seemed to move in ways that defied all logic. According to Valentich's radio transmission, the object appeared to be hovering above him, performing maneuvers that no known aircraft could replicate. At first, Valentich kept calm, but his transmission soon became more frantic as the object grew closer. In his final communication, he described the object as the metallic craft, green in color, and noted that it was cloaking and disappearing behind clouds. He said it was moving erratically, and at one point, he even exclaimed, "It is not an aircraft." These were the last words heard from Frederick Valentich before all communication ceased. At 7:12 p.m., Valentich's plane disappeared from radar. Despite extensive search efforts, no trace of the aircraft, its pilot, or any wreckage was ever found. It was as if Valentich has simply vanished into thin air. So, what happened to him? Where did he go? Was it an accident, a sudden mechanical failure, or something much more mysterious, something that no one was prepared for? Let's break this down. The first and most obvious theory was that Valentich's aircraft had encountered some sort of mechanical failure. But the fact that he was able to communicate for several minutes after his initial encounter with the strange object doesn't quite add up. If his aircraft had malfunctioned, why was he able to describe the object so clearly? And if it had been a simply engine failure, why was no wreckage found? The ocean where Valentage disappeared was thoroughly searched, but nothing was ever recovered. No debris, no oil slick, not even a scrap of the plane. And here's where things get even more puzzling. Valentage wasn't just describing as an ordinary aircraft. He spoke of a metallic, green object, and the object that was moving in a way that seemed completely unnatural. It was darting behind clouds, seemingly unaffected by the wind or the conditions around it. Could this have been a case of mistaken identity? Some have suggested that Valentage may have been confused, seeing a reflection of his own plane or a star in the sky. But here is a little problem. Valentage was an experienced pilot, one who had longer hundreds of flying hours. He knew the differences between a star and an aircraft. And then there is the fact that the object was moving, something that a star could never do. This brings us to second, more mysterious theory. The Valentage encountered a UFO, something that was not of this world. At the time, UFO signals were not uncommon. But Valentage's case stood out because of the detailed nature of his description. He was so specific in his transmission, so convinced of what he was seeing, that it became impossible to dismiss as the simple mistaken or just illusion. He was describing a craft with the advanced capabilities, something far beyond the technology available at that time. And here's where things get truly strange. According to some UFO enthusiasts, Valantage's experience wasn't a case of mistaken identity or mechanical failure. They believe that he came into the contact with a UFO, one that may have caused his disappearance. Some suggest that the strange object he encountered could have been responsible for either causing his plane to vanish or perhaps even abducting him. The absence of wreckage really supports this theory. It's almost as the aircraft and its pilot were removed from the Earth entirely. There are even some who claim that Valantage's encounter was not a random one. They suggest that Valantage's aircraft may have been deliberately targeted by the UFO. Was the strange object a craft from another world? Or could it have been something more earthly? Perhaps a secret military craft that was being tested in that area. After all, the Bass Strait was known for being an isolated region away from preying ice. The military had a history of testing around there. But if it was the secret military operation, why would they need to interfere with a small civilian plane? And why would they not have returned the plane or provided an explanation? And there is yet another theory, one that might be even darker. Some have speculated that Valantage's disappearances could have been a result of foul play, something orchestrated by a third party. Could someone have targeted Valantage, either due to personal reasons or perhaps as the part of the larger conspiracy? It's not an idea that often discussed, but it's one worth considering given the strange nature of the case and the fact that no wreckage was ever found. The investigation into Frederick Valantage's disappearance was extensive, but ultimately, it turned up very few answers. After the last transmission from Valantage, no further signals were detected from his aircraft. Despite the massive search operation that included aircraft, ships, and even sonar scanning of the Bass Strait, nothing was ever found. No wreckage, no sign of the plane, and most heartily, no trace of Frederick Valantage himself. Authorities looked into the possibility of hoax, but nothing pointed in that direction. Valantage's family in France insisted that he wasn't prone to making up stories, and his behavior in these days leading up to this disappearance didn't suggest that he was mentally unstable or under any particular stress. He had a steady and promising career ahead of him, and no one could point to a clear motive for him to fake his own disappearance. One of the strangest aspects of the case is the fact that the report of incident from Australian Department of Transport left a huge question mark. The report stated that there was no reasonable explanation for Valantage's disappearance, but it also dismissed the UFO theory, suggesting that Valantage had likely crashed into the ocean. But without any evidence to support this conclusion, it left the public, still reeling from the bizarre nature of the case, with no solid answers. So, what really happened to Frederick Valantage? Did he encounter a UFO that took him, or was there something else at play? For over 4 decades, the mystery of his disappearance has continued to captivate the public's imagination. Theories abound, but the truth remains uncovered. There are those who still believe that Valantage's encounter was the close of the third kind, while others maintain that he crashed into the ocean in the tragic accident, his plane lost forever. Whatever the case may be, one thing is certain: the disappearance of Frederick Valantage is a mystery that continues to puzzle investigators, UFO enthusiasts, and anyone who hears his story. What do you think happened to Frederick Valantage? Was it a UFO, a tragic accident, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more unsolved mysteries that continue to defy explanation.